Welcome to the Mindfully Masculine podcast with Charles and Dan, where we take a conscious, holistic, and direct approach to relationships, mental health, and self-improvement. For additional content, visit our website at mindfullymasculine.com. And to interact with us, our guests, and your fellow listeners, join the Mindfully Masculine group on Facebook.
Hey, good morning, Charles.
Good morning, Dan. That hey was a little more enthusiasm than I'm used to.
Yeah.
I like it.
I had some coffee this morning.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, man. I had a lot of coffee the other day. I have a Yeti that I take in my car that I want to say it's 24 ounces.
Okay.
And there was a day recently where I went to Disney and I had killed two full, maybe not full. I killed one full one for 24 ounces and then maybe had another 20 out of 24 ounces on the drive there.
Oh my gosh.
So I was about 44 ounces in, and I was definitely very, very excited, very talkative, and a little bit jittery. And it's funny because we talk about me taking the caffeine pills as a pre-workout.
Yeah.
And those do certainly affect me, but 40 something ounces of coffee affects me that way too.
Yeah. I can see that.
It can get me going. But I'm about I believe I made 6 cups of coffee this morning, and I will finish the 6th cup of my.
So your 6 cups, are those actual 8 ounces, or are they?
I think they're
mug
6.
size, so it's like 10 to 12, something like that.
No, the 6 is based on the markings on my carafe.
Okay.
And so I think they're probably 6 or 8 ounces.
Right.
Probably 8 ounces.
Okay. So in a Yeti, that's like half a cup.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
How was your weekend and your week?
Good on both counts. I've been staying pretty busy. I'm helping a friend try to locate an RV. I'm out there evangelizing the lifestyle.
Yep.
And before I met her, she was already into it, and now I've been living in mine for 4+ years, and no plans to change. And she's looking to make the leap to full-time RV status.
Nice.
And so we've been spending a lot of time looking online and almost going to see RVs, but
didn't actually pull that trigger yet. Okay.
No, haven't gone to visit one, but we're looking. The market is not completely saturated with lots and lots of choices right now. So if she sees something that is Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, and it looks like the right deal, then I've told her I'm happy to do an impromptu road trip as long as it works with my work schedule. And so I anticipate sometime in the next few days or week we'll probably go look at something, drive up in one of our cars and then drive the RV and the car back to our neck of the woods here.
You only looking through private sellers, or are you going to some dealerships?
She's open to both, and some they each have their challenges and their opportunities. Private seller, you can usually get a better deal, but being able to finance it and have a clean title and stuff like that is a little bit more difficult with a private seller, where with a dealer, if you do find something you like and your bank or credit union doesn't like it, then usually the dealer is their sales guys willing to go out there and find somebody who will get you the money for it, regardless of age and mileage and stuff like that.
Yeah. When I was briefly in the market for RVs, I went to a couple of places and I met with one sales guy and didn't actually meet with any of the other ones, but I established a little bit of a relationship with him. And now I'm getting calls from him like once a month going, hey, we just got, something that you were looking for, even though I told him I'm not interested anymore. So that might be something to think about, is going to some of these dealerships, making, just sitting with the sales guy, making a relationship, giving the contact information so that as soon as something comes in, they'll, you might be one of the first people to know. They'll, it's kind of just more as an alert type of thing, right?
Which dealer? Something around Orlando?
Yeah, it was the one in Castleberry here.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, maybe we'll make a trip over there and I'll get her in touch with somebody that can do that. I think she's looking to go fairly quickly here.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, that's what a sales guy wants to hear.
yeah, exactly. So we'll see if making that kind of a contact is going to prove helpful to her.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's exciting though. I love when my friends buy expensive things and I get to participate in that
That's always fun. Absolutely. Yeah. What did you think of the Wetterman's birthday party?
It was fun. I like that place. I like
Elevate.
Our friend Andy's part owner of a new bar, and it's a very chill little spot. I liked it.
Yeah.
Comfortable chairs, which I'm a big fan of.
Yes. Yep. There is a little piece of architecture inside there that I feel like is going to cause some problems. It's that piece of glass. I don't know if I showed that to you.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, a piece of, there's like a huge wall of glass that is kind of sticking out, and it kind of makes a corridor where there really doesn't need to be. And I feel like somebody's going to run into that, like a bad episode of, or like an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I don't know if you remember that, where Larry ran into one of the ran right into like a sliding glass door, and he was dating a much younger girl at the time.
Good for him.
It really made him feel super old because he missed it, and it was just kind of it just brought his age to the attention of the young lady that he was dating, and it was a pretty funny episode. So I had a great time. Very generous of them for that, to both Andy and Kurt and Richard to invite us, and basically it was open bar, and it was I've never been friends with somebody who owns a bar before, so it's a little bit different, but
it's funny,
it's enjoyable for sure.
While we were talking about him, Andy sent us the Facebook invitation for the grand opening on June 24th.
Oh, I know. You had the soft opening. I didn't realize it was a grand. I can't wait to go out when the weather's a little bit better and go actually on the roof.
On the roof. Part. Yeah, absolutely.
That's my favorite part. We were basically in what's called Elevate Lounge, and that is an I guess a airplane themed or airport themed lounge area. And what's really cool is the seats and the tables. They all have like either they're parts of airplanes, and it's from the 50s where it's or even earlier, I guess, to say the 20s, where it was a lot of the silver and the chrome plated planes. It's a great spot. But I like being outside, so I'm excited.
I like a rooftop bar, man, especially spring or fall when it's a little bit cooler, and you can dress nicely and not just sweat every pore of your body just drenched.
Yeah. Did you say the 14th, which is Tuesday, right?
24th.
Oh, 24th. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, it's gonna be Friday. Nice. Excellent.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I think there was something that I was looking at that was on the 24th, but I don't remember what it was.
Okay.
But yeah, if I'm not already committed to something, I will absolutely be there.
Yeah.
Let's see what else is going on. I'm continuing to listen to a really good audiobook, but man, it is heavy stuff. It is called The Body Keeps the Score, and it's all about the effect that trauma has on you, and how it's an experience you live within your body. It's not just something you think about. It's something that actually affects your body in so many ways. And,
right.
It's a heavy book. It was like 17 hours or something like that on Audible. Wow. I mean, it's really something to get through. And I think I got like 4 or 5 hours left, something like that. So I'm working my way through it, but it's tough. It's heavy. I mean, he's talking about, people that were abused as kids, guys that, saw and did stuff in Vietnam that they're living with. And it's some heavy duty stuff, but it's very informative, and it, helps me reframe and think about my own traumatic experiences that I've been through, and also understand and support friends and people that I care about that have been through trauma. So it's worth it, but it's not one of those things where you just put it on and it's light listening while you do the dishes. It's heavy duty.
Yeah. And I think you were telling me about it, how it actually can change your genes. And it makes sense
Yeah.
because, the concept of epigenetics really means that our environment can influence whether our genes are turned on or off. And that includes, cancer genes and other things that we typically more commonly think of as diseases. But this was interesting for me to hear that, these traumatic events, and it makes sense. It's coming from your environment and you're having an extreme reaction to it, can also affect your genes. And the scary thing is that can get passed on to your children because your genes have been altered.
Yeah. I've read stuff about how, I don't know that this would be considered epigenetics, but the idea that if a pregnant woman is under stress, like extreme stress, like she has a husband or, boyfriend that beats her while she's pregnant, like there are things that the cortisol and stress hormones and things like that will do to that baby that can never be undone.
Yeah, I believe it.
And it's, the first time I learned about epigenetics was when I read Mark Sisson's Primal Blueprint for the first time. And this idea that the foods that you choose to eat and the physical activity that you choose to engage in, it affects your genetics. And, what is it? Every 7 years, like most of the cells in your body are sort of renewed through just normal mitosis and cells dying off, cells being replaced. And it's like, you can influence the quality of the cells in your body and the stuff that is turned on and turned off based on the choices you make for food, exercise, and certainly, the impact of the emotional impact of experiences that you go through.
Yeah. And, that might be something to think about too, for people, is in terms of, the issues that, we've all experienced and stuff. A lot of times we don't do things for ourselves, the tough things for ourselves that we would do either for a pet or for a loved one or whatever. But if you think about it this way, if you don't resolve or work on things for yourself to kind of try to change your epigenetics a little bit, now you're passing that on to your children potentially. Right. And so if you think about it that way, maybe somebody hears that and goes, oh, wait a minute, now it's worth it for me to go to therapy. And now it's worth it for me to, answer those tough questions and get uncomfortable to try to work through this, because I'm going to affect my lineage, my children, and then down the road. And it's not just me that's affected by what happened to me. And I know through some of my primal health coach training, one of the studies that I learned about was the indigenous people out in the Midwest, when white settlers came out and kind of started taking their land and stopped them from being able to farm and hunt. The government started to supplement these people who just basically lived off the land, off of, plants and animals with our food, our processed food. And what happened was it was very high in sugar. And so what happened was all of these indigenous people, they got diabetes. They became type 2 diabetics. The blood sugars were out of control. They're completely obese, morbidly obese. And what they found they looked at, the generations, and what they were seeing was that children from the next generation were becoming fatter and more obese more quickly, generation after generation after generation. And what they found was it's because this is being passed along through the genes in terms of this hypersensitivity to high sugar, which actually increased all the insulin, which then basically adds a lot of fat if you're not working out. And so, the kids became more and more actually insulin resistant, because when you have a lot of sugar, you have a lot of insulin, and you basically become numb to it, kind of like an alcohol tolerance. And so it was being shown that now, Native Americans, indigenous people, they are very, very sensitive, and they have a real epidemic of type 2 diabetes. And it's because it's been passed on generation to generation. So again, that nothing exists in isolation, and that includes all of our own experiences. So that's, to me, that's just kind of blows my mind a little bit.
Yeah, we are. I mean, when scientists refer to, you know, the human body and the human brain as the most complicated system that we know about that exists in the universe, that's both saying a lot and it feels intuitively correct. Like, I mean, yeah, there could be stuff out there we don't know about, obviously, but for what we know about right now,
Yeah.
just everything that goes into making a person, there's just so much of it. And it's exciting to think that someday we might be able to understand all of it. But when you think about how little we understand right now, I mean, it's amazing how much we understand compared to 50 years ago.
Yeah.
But how much more there is to understand and be able to take an active role in managing it and optimizing health and well-being. It takes a lot of understanding, and you know, there's maybe only so much that lay people like you and me can. I mean, really, nobody can learn everything when it comes to all the different aspects of what makes a healthy human, a healthy and happy human.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I look forward to talking about today is how you can feel like, you know as much as you need to know to be as healthy and happy as you can be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That reminds me of something I read online the other day, that there's basically a race to build like these supercomputers, you know, from all the different governments in the world. And apparently, I guess the US just finally like beat China or Japan or something like that in the most number of operations per second that a computer can do. And they said it was something like 6 billion per second. And what was followed next was they think that's about the same as the human brain. So, wow. I mean, think about, that's insane to me. That, I mean, at this day and age, right, we just developed a computer that's coming close to being able to process as much as the human brain. Absolutely impressive. And it also goes to show, wow, we really are not tapping into nearly as much as we could in our own brains, right? Like, oh my gosh, can you imagine what we can possibly do?
I read a story yesterday actually about this that blew my mind, that there is a quantum computer chip that was recently tested and in 36 microseconds it was able to do the equivalent amount of processing that a current supercomputer would take 9,000 years to do.
Wow. That's nuts.
So the implication that a lot of smart people are very worried about is that data encryption becomes antiquated the second one of these chips goes online. So there is no encryption that your bank or your government has that one of these quantum chips can't do a brute force attack on and break in a matter of microseconds. So, nuts. You know, it's like we are on a countdown to living in a world with no encryption. And the first country that gets there could end up being the forever superpower in a world of no other superpowers.
Wow. That's it's a little terrifying, to be honest.
Absolutely, it's terrifying. And we could just find out tomorrow that, oh, it just happened. And so now we're all American or Israeli or Chinese because they're in charge now.
Wow. Yeah. So now that you've just given everybody a lot of anxiety, what kinds of things should we do? You know, how does we talked about, you know, other things for anxiety, but I feel like this is, you know, we're going to talk about some like lifelong learning and what, you know, what you've done, what I've done, and what we consider learning. So what, so let's dive in.
Yeah. Let me start by asking you a question and tell me what you think about this. I mean, when I look at the people in my life that I'm the closest to and that I get the most out of spending time with, the one sort of trait that they all have in common is that they're all curious. And do you feel like curiosity is something one is born with? Is it something that one develops based on their environment? Or is it something that you can choose to be, to say, hey, I'm not thrilled with the way life feels right now. Maybe if I was more curious, I'd be able to turn that around. can you decide to be more curious or not? What are your impressions of curiosity and how important it is, and how people can get more of it if they feel like they don't have it?
Yeah, I feel like Julie Smith, in the book that you just recommended to me, Why Has Nobody Ever Told Me This Before, touched on curiosity, I think. And
I think you're right.
And I think what she had said was, once you are or what she said was, I think they did a study, and the people who have a little bit more self-confidence, who are not as insecure, they tend to be more curious individuals. So they are focusing less on themselves and more on other people. And it's because they're not feeling these insecurities, they're then able to then open their mind up and get a little bit more curious about other people. So to kind of answer that question, and I feel like as I've gotten more confident in myself and more secure in myself as I've gotten older, I've also gotten more curious. Whether that's related or not, I don't know, but I definitely feel like if I'm feeling anxiety and feeling insecure, I'm not open to learning or bringing in much more information. I'm more stuck in the feelings that I'm having. So part of for me, I feel like part of the path to getting curious is to find a way to, handle that anxiety and deal with that. And then that allows yourself to, I feel like, open up to becoming a little bit more curious.
Yeah, there's a great quote in the first season of Ted Lasso where he's playing darts against somebody and mentions seeing a Walt Whitman quote on a wall that turns out is not actually a Walt Whitman quote, but it's still valuable. Be curious, not judgmental. And it's interesting to think about how opposed those two things actually are. It's like you can't be both of those at the same time. You can either make a decision to be curious about your own thoughts and feelings, the world around you, the people that you're interacting with, or you can choose to judge all those things. But you can't do both. You can either be in a mode where you're gathering information, or in a mode where you've already made up your mind about what something is. And you can't hold those both at the same time. You've got to decide which one is more important to you, to be curious or to sit in judgment over, again, it could be people, thoughts, ideas, whatever.
Yeah.
And I feel like the happiest, deepest people I know are the ones that maintain a spirit of curiosity, and they're always on the lookout for more information, not being more rigid in what they already know, but asking themselves, what else is there to learn about this?
Yeah. And I do want to kind of clarify something or just talk about a little bit, something that I'm just starting to embrace a little bit too, is the concept of judgment, and also caring about what other people think. And Julie actually talks about it in the book too. I know about the judgment part, but caring what other people think is that we hear so much about you shouldn't judge, you shouldn't care what other people think, but those things are pre-wired into us in terms of being human beings. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's more about, what do you do with that judgment, with that information that you obtain from judging, right? And what you're saying, I get it, is not, you can't do both at the same time. You need to be curious. And then my belief is people will then, you can then judge with that information, then how do you express, your judgment at that point? That's where, that's where I feel is important. And I feel like if you are too quick to judge and you're judging based on assumptions rather than gathering information, that's where I think a lot of us run into trouble. And that's where I think, where you're talking about is, we're sitting in judgment of people, because most of the time, if we're not gathering information, we're making assumptions. And a lot of times that's we're missing information that's wrong.
Right.
And then those judgments are inaccurate. And often it's used to relieve some sort of anxiety in ourselves, I feel.
No, absolutely. Right. And I you make a great point, and one that I buy into. Look, I'm an Enneagram 8 with a 7 wing, so you don't have to tell me about judging things. When when you see
Yeah.
when you see injustice in the world, when you see yourself or others being mistreated, at some point it is time to put your foot down and say, this is not acceptable. I won't stand for this, and this has to stop immediately. And you, yeah, there is a time when, you know, you have enough information, you have enough data, where curiosity has to stop and judgment and action has to take hold.
Yeah, for sure.
And it does feel like many people stop the information gathering a little bit prematurely, and many of us behave in a way like, okay, I have to act as if my life's in danger right now, when it really isn't. You're dealing with stress, you're dealing with anxiety, and so you feel like, okay, now I have to judge the situation, I have to judge this thought, I have to judge this person.
Yeah.
And really, you're not quite at that point yet. You should still be in the let me take in this information, let me evaluate what I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing. And it's very tempting to say, nope, I have to make a decision on this, I have to take action right now. And I feel like as humans, we have that tendency, because we have, you know, through human history, we've spent a whole lot of our time in survival mode, where we're fighting for our lives, fighting for our food, fighting to protect our family. And so this brain of ours wants to go to that mode immediately to save us. And we, you know, most of us, at least in the West, live in a society where we get to take a little bit more time to breathe and understand before we have to take action. And I feel like a lot of us are just, the pace of the life that we've taken on is such that we feel like we can't do that, when really it's the most effective thing that we could do for our long-term health, happiness, and well-being.
Yeah, and what I've heard, you know, some experts say is the phrase "stay curious," and for me, what that means is, when I hear something as I'm gathering information that makes me uncomfortable, that I maybe don't agree with, you got to be able to sit with that uncomfortable feeling and continue to gather information, because maybe you didn't get all the information. Still, you need, you know, maybe there's questions that you should be asking instead of just jumping to assumptions, because especially if it's a controversial topic, or if it's a hot button issue for you personally,
right,
you're already amped up. You're already, you know, you've already had like 2 Yetis full of coffee, you know, it's, you know, and now you've got this anxiety and excitement, and now you're hearing something that's going to trigger that even more. It's difficult to then stay curious and keep asking questions to get a full perspective.
Right.
And so that's where a lot of like the active listening comes in, where you're repeating what they say and getting agreement that what you have just repeated back to them is actually what they meant and what they said.
Yes.
And that is not an easy task. That takes active practice for sure.
Yeah, that whole process of restating to someone what they just told you, and trying again over and over to restate it until they're willing to say, okay, yeah, now I feel like you get me. You get exactly where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
And you know, to do that, to filter out your biases, it can take 2 or 3 or 16 attempts to tell it back to them in a way that they're willing to say, yes, now I finally feel like you understand what it is that I've been trying to say to you.
Yeah.
And it's hard work, but there are fewer ways to show somebody that you care about them and you care about their opinion than to take the time that it takes to do that. The other thing I wanted to say is, you know, especially in our political climate where everything is so divisive and so polarized right now, one of the most important things for me to try to understand is listening to someone, whether it's someone who agrees with me or someone who is diametrically opposed to me on a particular issue or on most issues, being able to listen to them and determine whether they are arguing in good faith or in bad faith. And the older I'm getting, the more I value somebody arguing in good faith over bad faith, whether they're on the same side as me or the opposite side of me. If you're coming at the argument in a way where I can tell you're sincere and you believe it, and you're trying to come up with a thing that helps the most people, not I just want to be right and I want to get the most control over my fellow citizen.
Yeah.
But this attitude of, no, I want what's best for everybody, and I might think what's best for everybody is the exact opposite of what you think is best for everybody, but I'm really trying to help out. I'm trying to make the world a better place. If I feel like that's where somebody's coming from, then I have so much more patience to hearing their argument and considering something that doesn't feel right to me, because I believe that they're in it for the right reasons. I'll give that person a wide berth, compared to somebody who on paper I might agree with on most things, but I know at the end of the day, they just want to control other people's behavior.
Yeah, that's I like the way you phrase that. That's something I'm going to keep in the back of my mind as I have discussions with people too. Yeah, I'm on the same page about that for sure.
Yeah, and it's hard to determine that sometimes because we want to give credit to people for having a good faith argument just because they agree with us.
Yeah.
Where in reality, they may be in it just for control, just for the feeling of being right, just for the virtue signaling of telling their tribe, hey, I'm a good member of the tribe. I believe all the right things. So you and I can have a relationship. Where it's like, no, I would rather deal with the person who's like, look, I don't see things the way you do, but I'm in it for a better world and I'm willing to prove that. That's the person I want to talk to and hang out with.
Yeah. And I hate to keep bringing this back up, but I feel like when somebody's trying to control something, anything, there's some level of anxiety there that they're trying to relieve. Right.
Absolutely.
So maybe a way to look at it is, okay, I feel like they're trying to control people or trying to control the situation here. If you know them, maybe you can look into it and say, hey, maybe they're anxious because they had this experience, or I know that they had this experience in the past. And maybe that's kind of where this notion could be coming from. And yeah, that might help you get to the bottom a little bit more of where they're coming from. But yeah, I definitely, that's great insight.
Yeah. It is worth understanding where people are coming from, both so that you can relate to them in a healthier, better way for them and for yourself. Because you don't want to surround yourself with and take advice from people whose, own trauma and previous experience and whatever anxiety, it just short circuits their ability to be there for you when you're going to need them.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I've been on both sides of that. I've been the person that was not able to be there for people because I was too in my own head about my own survival and my own narrative of pushing the idea of here's the way the world works. I've got it all figured out. And it's important that you believe this too, so that we could have a friendship or a relationship. Like I've been on that side. And I've also, had friends and partners where they had too much stuff going on in their own head that they did not have the capacity to be there for me.
Yeah.
And, it's, So how do you get to the point where you understand when you're in that mode and when they're in that mode? And for me, it is taking this curious approach to life and continuing to seek out and learn new things about the world around me and my own motivations and my own experience. And let's talk about a little. Let's get into how we do that. So for me, I read a lot of books. I listen to even more books. And I also seek out podcasts and interviews and YouTube videos where things that are important to me, I can learn more about them, and I can learn about them from sources that feel like we already see the world in a similar worldview, and people that are completely different from me as well. So, how much of your recreational time would you say you spend in personal growth and development?
I would say probably 60 to 70% of my recreational time.
Nice.
I can classify this as personal growth. So
yeah,
my morning walks, I'm listening to a podcast, right? Or a book. My drives, I don't know if that's considered recreational time, but it's time when I say recreational, it's not actually, working at a job, earning money kind of thing. Right. So
yeah, I think that's fair.
But then, the dance classes that we take, right? I look at that as personal growth. I'm certainly uncomfortable, and I definitely was.
Yes.
Even in the classes that I know, or some of the dances that I know, like the hustle, I'm taking classes, the more advanced, but also now, Nanette is actually, she's calling me out, I noticed, to demonstrate certain.
Ooh.
So every once in a while, when it comes time to demonstrate the actual, dance move, she used to call out, some of the people with more experience, and now she's calling me out. And so I'm a little bit, now it's like the class stops and I'm on display with her, and yeah, I'm uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
again, it builds some of my confidence. So absolutely that helps. And then, conversations that we have in this podcast, even, right. It's doing things and talking about them and, teaching informally or not informally, but rehashing them. All of that definitely brings forth a deeper understanding and a little bit of growth through that, for sure.
Yeah. And I would say that, the lifelong learning and curiosity that we talk about, it is not just about picking up a boring nonfiction book so that you can, understand some new scientific or historical fact. It is, like you said, I mean, going to dance classes, spending your time, learning either a new exercise at the gym or hiring a coach to help you improve your form so that you're getting more out of the exercises you're already doing. Reading quotes that, people you can look up to have offered about an activity like walking, so that you can, when you go on your walks, whether you're listening to something or you're not, you're getting more out of the walk. That's becoming a more valuable and effective experience for you. There's so many ways that you can look at the experience of your life, both your career and your free time, and you can know more about the things you do and be able to experience them on a deeper level, so that while they may not be more fun, they can be deeper and more fulfilling. And really anything that you engage in on a regular or an occasional basis, it's possible, thanks to, the information age and the internet, you can go deeper on anything that you do and get more out of that thing than you do today. And that is insane that we have that ability now that has been unavailable for all of human history.
So that kind of brings us around for my thoughts here about the incredible power that our brain has. So you may have heard the study, but they basically took two groups of people who worked as cleaners in hotels, and they took one group and they said, okay, all the activities that you're doing on a daily basis in terms of your work is beneficial. You're going to burn a lot of calories. It's the equivalent of, intense exercise. And they just kind of reminded them on a regular basis that that's what was going to happen. Then they took the control group and they basically monitored what they were eating, all their activity, but didn't give them any of that information. And the group of people who actually, were fed that information, no pun intended, actually, they lost weight, got in better shape. It was statistically significant, and they did not actually burn by, physical standards, burn any extra calories or anything else in terms of, their physical activity or what they were eating. And it's amazing that, the brain, when you set your intentions for something,
right,
you actually it can change in the physical reality. So
it feels like magic, doesn't it?
It does.
When you hear about the placebo effect and stuff like that, it feels like how are we ever going to be able to understand this? But we don't have to understand it to recognize the data says that it is absolutely real.
Professional athletes, they've done this study time and time again, where they basically have somebody, and one athlete, they go and they practice. For a basketball player, they go practice at on the court shooting baskets.
Yeah, that's right. The free throws versus visualizing versus actually doing it.
And the people who were visualizing actually were more accurate. And afterwards, because every time they visualized, they made the basket. Whereas when they were practicing physically, they didn't make the basket every time. So the effects of being, you were like flawless in your mind every time, that actually was more beneficial than going on the court and practicing. Blows my mind how that works.
It's crazy.
But I wanted to add also here something that I think people don't realize too, is that we're always learning. It is innate into our human DNA to do this. We all love, many people love to travel, right? And what is that? That is, even if it's not a new place every time you travel, it is definitely not the exact same experience, even if you're going to the same place over and over again. Right. And so that's something I think is one of the reasons why we love to travel, is those new experiences, and it is different, but it's less uncomfortable because, a lot of times when we're traveling, these are really enjoyable experiences and we get excited about it. So that same level of those same feelings of anxiety, which we think of, are very similar to actual excitement. Right. So it's just what your mindset is, right? You're going to, you're thinking it's going to be fun. So it's exciting and enjoyable. But to me, that's also a way of learning.
Yeah. And you're right. We are wired to, and that's something that kind of Peterson talked about a lot in 12 Rules, this idea of the line between order and chaos, where we want to stretch ourselves and engage in these new experiences. And we want to do it in a safe way that we feel like we'll be able to survive. And some of us have different lines with that, where some of us want it to be a little bit more chaotic. Some of us want it to be a little bit more orderly, but it does feel like, the place for that exciting, fulfilling life is kind of on that edge where you are pushing yourself and learning new things on a regular basis, but you feel safe enough that when things don't go perfectly, you're going to be able to survive and live to fight another day.
Right. And what I've heard multiple times is, as you take those small steps in other areas of your life, you build that confidence. As you get out of your comfort zone in those other areas of your life, you're building your confidence. So then we're doing something that you've never done before, you can remember back and rely on the confidence that you build. Hey, I was able to do these things. Even though they're not related at all, you were able to get them done and figure that out. And the confidence in having that skill set then translates into anything else you want to do.
Yeah, I would say for sure. I mean, that it's interesting. I read an interview of some Olympic gold medalist lifter who put just some ridiculous amount of weight over his head for I think it was a clean and press.
Mm-hmm.
We put it was something ridiculous, like 550, 600 pounds from his clavicles up over his head.
Wow.
And somebody asked him, man, what does it feel like to put 550 pounds over your head? And he said, what's the most you've ever put over your head? He's like, I got 135 once. He goes, it feels exactly like that.
That's great. Yeah. Put it in perspective.
Yeah. And just this idea that, you can, whatever your current PR is at the gym on a particular lift, putting another 2.5 pounds on the bar, or 5 pounds on the bar, or 100 pounds on the bar, it's going to feel exactly like it did the first time. Whatever the hardest thing you did is, the next hardest thing is going to feel that exact same way. And you may have to try several times before you get it. You may have to, go down and up and down and up until you can get that new personal best. But it's going to feel, once you get it, it's going to feel the same way that it did the last time you got your personal best. And once you learn that new lift, or that new musical instrument, or that new dance step, it's going to feel just like it did the last time that you learned something new. And it's going to be awkward and uncomfortable and difficult, and it's going to feel good after you do it. And the more of those victories you're able to put together, the more you're going to feel like, okay, this is going to be tough, but I'm going to do it because I've done it before.
Yeah. And it's vitally important that you are measuring against yourself, because that 135 for that guy is nothing, but you're not completely, but I think you're taking away a lot of the benefit for yourself by comparing yourself to this guy. So, I only got 135 up, even though it might've been your PR.
Right.
If you are then sabotaging your mindset by comparing that to somebody who's been lifting much longer than you, or as a different body and is a completely different person than you, you're really losing a lot of the benefit that you get from achieving that, on getting out of your comfort zone and getting and achieving that. And so, and again, kind of, it goes down, it's going to follow you down the road as you then try to do new things. In the back of your mind, you'd be like, well, I got 135, but that doesn't mean much. So now you've taken a tool out of your tool belt to help you for the next thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, there's 8 billion people running around this rock. And, how many activities do humans engage in that can be measured and ordered in any kind of a, concrete and competitive way? I mean, maybe 1 million. So
yeah.
Basically everybody is probably not the best thing at anything, the best person at anything.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you and I are not the best podcasters that anybody knows.
And here's the thing is, and even if they are the best, that's with a very few exceptions. That's usually very fleeting. It's right. I mean, it might be a couple of years, but I mean, I feel like records are being broken more quickly over and over and over again. So yeah, even if somebody is the best, it's short lived. And what good is that anyway?
Right. And they're, find the things that you are good at and the things that you do well and enjoy those things, and realize that, you don't have to be the best at anything, and you don't even have to be really super good at a lot of things. Like, I mean, you look at, Usain Bolt running the 100-meter dash. If he got out there and tried to run 100-mile, ultra marathon with David Goggins, he wouldn't be able to do it.
Right. Yeah.
And, there is nobody who's really great. I mean, there are certain things that translate obviously from one sport to another, one activity to another, but yeah, just give yourself a break and don't feel like you have to be the best at everything or even really good at everything. Just find the things that you're passionate about and the things that you get something out of getting better and better at, and then focus on those and feel good about them, and compare yourself to yourself yesterday, not anybody else, because, again, you could walk into the gym and be able to bench press more than anybody else that's in the gym at that time.
Yeah.
But there's still somebody out there that make you look like a foolish little child.
Yep.
If you took the bench next to them.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That doesn't have to be a source of shame or pride or anything. It can just be, I do what I do because I want to do it and I'm trying to get better at it. Mm-hmm. That can be enough.
Yeah.
It should be enough. And it never is for me. I fall into all these traps that I'm telling you can avoid.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's hard to have that mindset of whether it's your job, your relationships, your hobbies, whatever. It's like you can work for continual improvement and not beat yourself up for not being good enough today.
Sure. And for me, one thing that I don't do enough of for sure is, track what I'm doing and review that. I mean, I'm actually decent at tracking. I'm terrible at reviewing. I never I'll, track my food, my, my weight, take progress pictures, whatever, but I never review. I never go back and I never look at it. And that is something that I'm working on, because then you forget, your brain is biased and you forget how far you actually have come.
Yeah.
And then, you're like, wow, I've done a lot. Same thing with like journaling and looking through some old journals. Like, wow, I forgot I did all of these things on this day. And then you kind of build a little bit more appreciation for your past self and the things that you've accomplished and the things that you've done. And then I feel like I don't really need to compare myself to, or I have less of a need to compare myself to somebody else. Or when I do, I've already got a little bit of a better impression of myself, because these are things I just forgot.
Right.
And so a lot of my issue is just not remembering all the things that I've done. So, I've just restarted using the 5-minute journal again to kind of talk about my days. And
nice. I've been thinking about picking that. I've been thinking about picking that one up and adding
it's a quick and easy. Yeah, I like it a lot. I like it a lot.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah.
I'll drop a link in that, and I'll think about. And I think I may have talked about it last episode we recorded. Getting back to journaling, which I feel is such an important part of, this ongoing mental health and personal development. I've been watching some YouTube videos and reading some articles about stream of consciousness journaling, where you open up a ruled journal where it just has blank lines, no prompts or anything. And you set a timer and you just put down what pops into your head for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And, I'm gonna, before we record the next episode, I'm definitely going to start that practice and add it to my daily practice and see what kind of benefit I get out of it, because it does seem like something, like meditation, where it's just about observing what's going on in your mind, not judging it, not changing it, but just, observing it and making a record of it. And then possibly being able to take some of the more negative thoughts that you struggle with and put them on a piece of paper so that they don't have to stick around, bouncing around in your brain all the time.
Yeah.
And journaling is something that you and I think will continually talk about on this podcast, because I think it's one of the most important things you can do for your own mental health and well-being. The other thing I wanted to say about reviewing is, when I was doing open mic comedy, all the people that were good and all the people that I wanted to listen to for advice would always say, video yourself doing your sets. And if you can't video, at least do an audio recording and then go back and watch it or listen to it. And I would do half of that. I would record it, but then I would never, ever, ever watch it or listen to it, because it was just, I couldn't do it. It was too cringy.
It was a little uncomfortable. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
And same thing, whenever I'm trying something new, and even with this 5-minute journal, which I did years before, I just realized, just push your, at the beginning of anything new, your brain is automatically going, this is going to take energy and work, and there's a little resistance there. Mm-hmm. And every single time I just push past it, ignore it just for a second and just start, put pen to paper, it is so much easier than what my brain was building it up to be. And it's just just doing that on a regular basis helps me move past things that are uncomfortable. But what helped me this morning was, and I ordered a new 5-minute journal. It's been sitting there for a month and I hadn't used it yet. And what I was doing, I wasn't meditating in the morning. I wasn't going for walks. I went for a walk. I meditated this morning, and it was I had a lot less resistance when it came to just opening that journal. So nice. I realized, and again, Julie Smith talks about this in the book too, is when you're feeling that anxiety, take some sort of physical action, just stand up. Like, I was thinking, all right, you got to go for a walk. She's like, just change the position that you're in. Stand up if you're sitting down. If you're lying down, get up and walk to a different part of the room. And that little bit is going to be enough sometimes to get rid of that anxiety and let you do what you want to do. So I'm going to be trying to remember that.
Yeah. I tell you, the way that humans are capable of thinking about how we think is something that sets us apart. And it can eat us up, or it can be our greatest tool, depending on how that goes when we do it. But if, just being able to observe your thoughts and recognize them as thoughts. And I saw a great meme the other day on Instagram that said, your thoughts are not the sky. Your mind is the sky, and your thoughts are just the clouds.
Mm-hmm.
And just being able to say, these thoughts are not my identity. They're not permanent. They're just the things that go in and out of my consciousness, and I get to just observe them and say, okay, that I'm thinking thoughts that are leading me to feel anxious or worried or afraid or whatever. Yep. And you don't have to be an anxious person if you can just observe your anxious thoughts. And you don't have to identify with your thoughts. They can be a thing you experience, and trying to remember that in the moment of anxiety is nearly impossible, but not quite impossible.
Right. And that's where she had said in those instances, also when you're ruminating and you keep thinking the same thing over and over and over again, stand up and do something physical. Just do something very, very simple and easy to then just break and just interrupt that thought pattern. Right. And by moving physically, then it's the same thing as sometimes when you are asked a question, a lot of times that triggers a different part of your brain. So then you stop, what you're ruminating about, and then actually can give you just that moment of interrupt to go, okay, well, what I've been thinking about here. And what's interesting, as you were saying that, Charles, I was thinking, what we're doing on this podcast, what this is all about is really trying to figure out how to best use the tool we call our brain. right? I mean, in any situation is how to manage the tool, how to make the most of it, how to make, how to use it in the right way. And then, also how to manage it when there's some smoke and noises coming from our brain going, hey, there's something wrong here. How do we handle that? And, the whole concept of, psychology and being mindful to me means, let's leverage what you had said, which is a very powerful tool, but could be quite dangerous as well.
Yeah. I mean, the thing to remember is our brains did not evolve to keep us happy. They evolved to keep us alive.
Yeah. Great point.
And thankfully, enough brains have come together, at least in Western society, that our level of relative safety, obviously the world is still a dangerous place, but our level of relative safety is higher than it's ever been before. But our brains on a very deep evolutionary level don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
So our brains want to put us in survival mode so much of the time that we don't need to be. And so we have to develop these tools and these ways of thinking that allow us to concentrate on health and well-being and happiness instead of just, avoid the animal that wants to eat us or the tribe that wants to come over from their village into our village and, take our resources and all these things. And it's hard if without being active and deliberate, your brain is going to put you into survival mode when you don't need to be.
Yeah.
And as a result, it's going to shut down the things that you could be doing to improve your health, happiness, and well-being. And, it's like, it sucks. I'm sorry that we have to make those choices. At least most of us do. I mean, there are some people that, have been blessed with the genetics and the life experience and the childhood that, maybe that just comes naturally to them. I don't know any of those people, but they must be out there.
Yeah. But I think it's very few and far between.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is, we have to work at it, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
Right.
Because the joy and the happiness and the satisfaction that we get when we're able to operate at our best and connect with other people and share what we, experience with other people. I mean, that's when all the feel good hormones come in and for me anyway. So I think it's all worth it.
The other thing I did want to briefly spend some time on is when it comes to improving your life and going deeper on any of the activities that you find valuable, consider parting with some time and money to hire an expert to help you get better faster.
Yeah.
And whether that's, a dance coach, a weight training coach, a therapist, whatever it is, whatever that thing is that you've decided, hey, it's worth it to spend my time and money on this activity. Find a good expert that can help you get more out of the time and money that you're already spending, and you'll be better off.
And they're going to eliminate a lot of the frustration that you're going to experience from not having the same experience that they have, right? So they can leverage their experience to go, hey, look, you could potentially run into this, you could run into this. These are the solutions. These are the obstacles. And having that would a lot of times is the difference maker in terms of you continuing on to explore that and grow in that way versus you just giving up because you're getting frustrated because you don't see what the other side of it is, what's on the other side of that obstacle. They can guide you through that, and they can tell you what's on the other side or how to get to the other side. And for me, that's the biggest benefit I get out of that. So the shortcuts that you get.
Right. Yeah. We talked about, some of the people that you made contact with at the Podfest convention, it's just so valuable to be able to go to somebody who is either where you want to be or even just closer than where you want to be and say, hey, look, I'm 6 months into this. What do you wish somebody told you when you were 6 months in that would have helped you out? Like what don't I know that I don't know? And what do you think I should know if I want to get where you are? And whether you're paying someone or not, people love answering that question.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it makes them feel good because they can offer some value, themselves. And that in and of itself makes a lot of people feel really good. And that's the one thing that I was really impressed with at Podfest was all of the people with who've been doing podcasting for years and years and years, really successful people. The conversations were never about them. It was, what are you up to and how can we help you? And it was such a great environment of generosity and abundance. And, so I had some fantastic conversations there. So I'm really excited for what's going to come down the road for us.
Yeah. So am I. It is a great community of very creative people, and it's so exciting to meet people where they're creatives. They have the creative side, and they've also sort of learned the business side, and they've been able to make themselves a success, or pay their bills.
Yeah,
doing this thing that you and I are. I mean, we're excited as both podcasters and consumers of podcasts. Like this media that is available is so exciting in so many ways, and to meet people who have gotten it right on sort of both ends, the creative end and the business and marketing end, it's real exciting to talk to those people and learn from them. And I'm looking forward to the next. I only got to spend a little bit of time with you at this one because I was sick and I had work commitments and things, but the next one that we go to in Texas, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else you want to add today? I think this was good.
I think we've covered it. My message, my takeaway to people is, look, invest in the things that you're interested in and go deeper, whether it's for work or for fun or whatever. You can go deeper on these experiences that you've decided to invest your time in, and it's worth doing that because I feel like learning more about the things you believe matter makes your life better. And I can say that is true in almost every case.
Yeah. And you never know what kind of surprises and new things that you never thought that you would unearth will come up in terms of, information and connections and, experiences. And that's one of the things that I love about it. Every time I don't feel like going out and doing something and I get out of my comfort zone, just show up, show up for a little bit. I mean, the same thing, I wasn't going to go to the Wetterman's birthday party. I was tired. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go. Right. And I met some people who we might interview actually on the podcast, and that were super excited about, men's mental health. And I never would have thought I would have met people that, like that at the local birthday party. So goes to show you never know, and it's dangerous to think that you do.
No, exactly. That's the thing. You don't know what
you could be
know.
missing out, and you could be missing out. Not that's dangerous, but you could be missing out.
Yeah.
So
I'm
missing that more for me than anything else in the future. Yeah.
I mean, most of us podcast is about you and I giving advice to ourselves and each other, and hopefully somebody else gets something out of it, right?
Fingers crossed.
All right, everybody. Stay curious and learn new things, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Yeah. All thanks, right, Charles. Bye.
Thanks so much for spending time with us on the Mindfully Masculine podcast. If you liked the episode, or you think it would be useful for someone else, please leave us a review and join the Mindfully Masculine group on Facebook. Remember, fellas, don't act masculine, be masculine.